And yet for others, the holidays unleash the dread of finding the time to buy groceries for and cook all those holiday meals, the hassle of dragging the holiday ornaments out of the attic and putting them back up again 30 days later, the onslaught of party invitations, finding the time and the money to purchase and wrap all those gifts, and the buildup of anxiety knowing that on January 15th, your holiday hangover will hit full force when your credit card bill arrives. So, how do you go from barely surviving the holidays to actually enjoying them? Well, in the next hour, I'm going to share dozens of tips to help you save time, money, and your sanity during that holiday season. My name is Melissa Tissetti, and I'm the founder of The Savvy Life. And for the past 8 years, I've been teaching savvy living through webinars such as this one, as well as in-person classes all over the U.S. When I'm not teaching, I spend my days working one-on-one with individuals and families to create their own spending plans. And then most importantly, I actually teach them how to put those plans into play. At this point, I've worked with over 525 clients in almost every state of the United States. Now, before we get into the material, just one quick housekeeping item. Your phone should have been muted as you logged on, and that's to keep the background noise to a minimum. I'm going to finish with anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to spare to answer questions. So what I ask is if you could type your questions into that questions section as we're going along, then that will allow me to get right to those questions in that last few minutes. Does that sound good? All right, let's get started. I believe that there are many reasons why, for some, the holidays have turned into a time of survival rather than a time of enjoyment. First of all, there's the financial stress, trying to magically come up with the extra money for all those extravagant meals, gifts, decorations, and more. Then there's the stress of trying to find the time to squeeze in the gift shopping, the food shopping, cleaning, decorating, cooking, right? You get the idea. Along with that time stress is the anticipated social commitments. Now, that could entail either trying to squeeze in all those parties and gatherings or the stress of trying to say no without hurting feelings. And then there's one of the greatest stresses of all, and that is trying to meet your immediate and extended family's expectations, which, by the way, is impossible because everyone's thoughts of what the holidays should be about are very different. Now, on top of all of this, and this is the aspect that really drives me crazy, is that in most families, the burden of creating the magic of the holidays is almost always put on one person's shoulders. And my guess is that person is you, since you're the one who's logged into the webinar. So all that being said, how do you go from enduring the holidays to actually enjoying them? Well, it starts by starting now, right? I am a self-confessed, I am not naturally born organized. I never, ever was, and consequently, I kept getting smacked in the face by that lack of organization. And over the years, I've learned that little things, planning in advance, little things here and there, can make a massively positive impact on quality of life, on everything, really, truly. But in this area as well, and it may seem like such a funny thing or such a type A personality thing to do, is to sit down and write a plan of what you want the holidays to look like. But if you think maybe back to past experiences where you also been just kind of smacked around in that last 6 weeks, having a plan for what you want to look like and making that plan, weeks in advance before everything starts to hit can make a big difference. And so what I suggest is, first of all, write down on your to-do list, either for tonight or sometime this weekend, to actually create this plan. So that's the first step, is to add the plan to your plan. And then the next step is to set a timer. Don't turn this into a big deal. Just set a timer for 5 minutes and write out what you want the holidays to look like. Or perhaps you want to sit down with your spouse and the two of you together decide what you want the holidays to look like. And you can start by looking back at your favorite memories, your favorite, like just the little things that have made a particular holiday here or there very special for you. It could be maybe a certain meal that made it so special. Perhaps it's time spent decorating the tree or a particular family gathering. So what you're going to do is write down the elements of those happy memories and structure your holiday plan around them. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is to do your best not to plan too much. And this is something that I have learned the hard way a lot, often. The fact of the matter is that the less you plan to implement, the more intention you can put into and the more enjoyment you can get out of the holidays. If you overplan, you get spread too thin. So it really is quality over quantity, which is a common theme in savvy living. So next, I strongly recommend that if you don't already have one, to create a holiday savings account. Now, whether that is for Christmas, Hanukkah, or whatever winter holiday you celebrate, give yourself an opportunity to save a little money each paycheck so when the holidays come around, the money is there. Now, while it's getting a bit close to the holidays now to be massively impactful this year, it can make a huge difference next year. Now, that's not to say that it won't make a difference if you start now. That depending on your particular situation, that could be anywhere from 2 to 5 paychecks that you can just again shovel a little bit of that money away. So it's definitely worth it. In my own experience of working with so many clients, I've learned that taking the financial stress away from the holidays really is one of the biggest game changers, and it helps to bring back so much of that enjoyment of the holiday for the holiday maker, the holiday doer, again, which is very likely you. So speaking of clients, over the years when I've worked with clients that love the holidays and want to spend as much as possible when it comes to those last 6 weeks of the year, well, depending on the timing of when we start working together, that can be rather challenging. We start working together at this time of year, and I say, yeah, go ahead and start saving. Again, it can be very challenging, especially if they want to spend big in this category. And so what we've done is looked for opportunities to help them to get creative. And these are tactics that clients have actually put into play that have helped them financially support particular holidays. I have a couple of clients that, actually quite a few clients if I really think about it, that have gone through and used this as an opportunity or a trigger, if you will, to declutter their homes, to sell certain items, whether that's on eBay, Craigslist. You may have heard me tell the story of one particular client that sold her clothing on a website called The Real Real and ended up making several $1,000s over a couple of months time period. So this is stuff that people really, really do. I've had other clients that have gone out and, retired clients that have gone out and got a little part-time job, a temporary part-time job at maybe a little boutique that they really enjoy, a little clothing boutique. Key there is not to fall in love with the clothes and spend your paycheck on that. You can do that after the holidays. And then, there's one client in particular that, not a client, she's actually a friend of mine. I like to think of her as the patron saint of savvy living. Gladys. So Gladys she lives here in the San Francisco Bay Area. She lives by herself. This is an extraordinarily expensive area to live. And one of the things that she does is she supplements her enjoyment of travel and she supplements her spending on the holidays by having a part-time gig that she has created where people hire her to do tea parties. So she has several lovely sets of china, and she has, brews the teas and makes the pastries, and she just goes in and in your home or wherever it might be, she is the person that makes these little tea parties happen. She does birthday parties, a lot of baby and bridal showers, that you get the idea. So doing something that she so thoroughly enjoys is this aesthetic, this enjoyment of tea, that has helped her travel all over the world. It seems like every other month I'm getting an email from her about, another part of the world that she's visited. But it also helps support her spending around the holidays. So it's a bit of a unique situation for her. But the reason that I bring that up is that, if this is an area that you sincerely would like to just be able to give yourself permission to spend a little bit more and you've got some free time, there are opportunities for you to be able to bring in a little bit more money, okay? Or perhaps there's, family members that that you might be able to pass that information on that would benefit from it. And then, of course, the last bullet speaks for itself, and that's to start shopping for gifts now. And the reason that I say that is that the more time you give yourself, the more time you can give the gifts that you really want and find them at the price that you want to pay. All too often, the reason that we overspend on the holidays is because we've run out of time and end up spending more money than we want to something we're not even that excited about giving simply because we become desperate. Okay, so again, planning in advance, starting in advance, that really goes a long way. And again, that enjoyment, being able to relax and enjoy those shopping endeavors rather than feel like they're punishment again because you've run out of time. Okay, so speaking of time, excuse me, this next slide, if you get nothing else out of today's presentation but take and run with the information on this next slide, then I am going to feel that your time has been well spent. This, to me, is, I would say, 60% of what the Savvy Holidays are all about, and that is scheduling. Now, the amount of tasks and to-dos that we tried to squeeze into already overtaxed schedules in those last 6 weeks of the year truly is criminal. I feel so ridiculously strongly about this. And this, again, is one of the reasons why we end up resenting the holidays rather than really enjoying them. The cure is to plan your schedule in advance. Now, this is something that I've learned to do at the beginning of October. And my intention, actually, I have it on my to-do list to sit down with my husband, Paul, this weekend. And we'll just talk out, what do we want to do in those last 6 weeks, right? What are the, as far as our calendar goes, what are our obligations? And we really start there. His family lives 2 hours one way. My dad lives 2 hours another way. My mom 2.5 hours, another half hour beyond where my dad lives. And so we want to make sure that we get those dates on the calendar for when we're going to visit them. Other thing we want to make sure that we do, because the distance is so far and that does take up time, is we actually also block out the time on our calendar to visit them, okay? So that's key, because otherwise it's just too easy to think, oh, yeah, I'm going to go visit my family, but I'm also going to get my shopping done that day. That's absolutely not going to happen. So that's the first thing, is to, those obligations that you have, put them on your calendar. Now, the next step, and this is critical, is that you're going to sit down and for each week between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I would say actually get into the practice now and do it starting now, is you're going to set aside one, even better, 2 nights every single week, and those are weeknights. So Monday through Friday, you're going to set aside 2 nights that you block out and that you do nothing but go home and relax, okay? Those are the nights that if you're still working and you're not retired, before you leave, you set your slow cooker so that when you walk in the door, you're greeted by that amazing smell of dinner already done. You and your family walk back to your bedrooms, you would change into your pajamas, you have a delicious dinner, and then you do whatever you want the rest of the evening. Play board games, watch holiday TV, read, relax, okay? The reason downtime is so key is because it gives our bodies a chance to recover from longer days of trying to get everything done, from going in and out of heated rooms, out into the cold and then back in again, from imbibing from more heavily foods that are, much more rich than we're used to eating, as well as alcohol, right? A little more alcohol than normal. So scheduling that downtime is going to go a long way toward keeping you healthy while all your coworkers are getting sick, right? And again, it go a long way to you actually enjoying the holidays. Now, this is something that I have, if you'll forgive me for the term, that I have preached for about 5 years now. It is also a practice that I put into play in my own life year-round. We started doing this, like as I said, 5 years ago, and I started thinking, why am I only doing this during the holidays? This is great. And so my husband works evenings. He runs a mixed martial arts school. So my son Dante and I, we're at the mixed martial arts school 3 days a week, but the other 2 days we're at home. So tonight, Tuesday nights and Thursday nights, it's our goal that we might run one quick errand on the way home from here or there, but otherwise we try to be home no later than 6:30, relaxing and enjoying our evening. And it is really amazing. Quality of life increasing. All right. So one thing as you're doing this is, so you've planned your obligations, you have blocked out your downtime. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to block out the things that you want to do during the holidays. Here in the San Francisco Bay Area, one of the big events that takes place for, every weekend through the holidays, starting in Thanksgiving week, it's called Dickens Fair. And basically this big, huge convention center type place is turned into Charles Dickens Victorian Christmas time. And it's an event that I absolutely love. To me, it's a kickoff for the holidays, and it's one thing that I enjoy going to with my friends every year. And so that's one thing I'll be sending an email out to all my friends this weekend saying, okay, what day are we going? And that ensures that I'm actually able to do that. You can do the same with work events. If you really want to go to your work holiday party, a friend has a ornament decorating party every year. Get those events on the calendar before they get taken up by that time gets taken up by other things that you don't want to do. Now, it may sound like I'm beating this subject to death, but I cannot emphasize enough how powerful this process is. Just a couple more things on this. The first is try not to schedule every other spare moment. Give yourself an opportunity to take advantage of last minute invitations that you would like to attend. And by the way, of those invitations that you receive that you don't want to attend, all you have to do is just simply say that you cannot make it. And you cannot make it could be the reason is because you just don't want to go. But they don't need to know that, or you don't need to make up an excuse. Just say you can't make it, and that's it. And don't feel guilty about it. It's another lesson I had to learn. It took me a very, very long time. So one of the questions that I get asked more often than anything else around the holidays is how much should I spend? And the very simple blanket statement on this or guide is to only spend what you can afford. The minute you overspend, it creates negative emotions, and the intention of that spending shifts to stress, and very often it can shift to resentment, and that is not what the holidays should be about. However, if money is readily available, it's not something that you're not walking too close to the line financially. There is a rule of thumb around holiday spending that can help guide you, and that is to spend no more than 1.5% of your annual take-home pay. I'll say that one more time. To spend no more than 1.5% of your annual take-home pay on the holidays. That's not just for gifts, though. That is for everything. That's gifts, meals, travel, decorating, charity. Okay? Keep in mind, though, that this is a rule of thumb. If you have, you're making $200,000, $300,000 a year, and you have a very small family, you're not going to spend 1.5% of your take-home pay on them, right? But on the flip side, if you're like a couple that approached me after I gave this presentation a couple years ago, and you have 19 grandchildren, you actually really love the holidays, then it's quite possible you'll be spending a little bit more. So you just have to figure out what is going to work for you, but this is a starting point. All right. Now, regarding shopping, specifically regarding shopping for gifts, as you figure out what your overall budget is, right, for the holidays, and you figure out how much you want to spend in each of those categories, let me just go back for a second, how much you want to spend on gifts, meals, travel, etc. Then once you figure out how much money you have available to spend on gifts, you're going to want to take this one step further. And again, it may feel like a type A task to do, but it really will help you stay on track, and that is to go over your list, figure out who you're buying for, and then figure out of that budget that you have, how much do you want to spend on each individual gift, okay? And then as you go along and you buy gifts, if you spend a little bit more on one person's gift, then you're going to have to adjust the other gifts. Or if you spend a little bit less, which hopefully once we get through this entire topic today, that's something that you will be doing because you'll be able to identify how to find more of the gifts that you want at an even better price. Well, that'll allow you to spend a little bit more on these other areas if you want to, or you can just save that savings and spend it on something fun like travel. All right, so adjust your budget as you go. I am a big fan of using stores' online sales ads to decide if I ever even want to walk into the store that week. This is another habit that I actually implement year-round. Sunday mornings, I sit down with my second cup of coffee, and I review my favorite stores' sales ads, starting with Target, right? And especially around the holidays, Target can be an easy place for you to knock out a lot of those gifts that you want to buy. And so each week I just take a look. I have my list and I look at what Target has available on sale. And the beauty of it is, number one, getting some ideas without ever having to walk into that store. And number two, I'm seeing those items, the ideas I'm getting are items that are on sale, right? And so this helps me save time, because if I don't see anything that's really thrilling me, then I won't go into the store that week, right? And once you start getting a little bit deeper into the holidays and you start seeing that you're not finding what you want necessarily on sale, yeah, then you go and you walk into the stores. But this is a fantastic starting point for you, okay? That being said, I am also an advocate of being very systematic in your shopping. And again, this comes from my own negative experiences. I found in my 20s especially, I just kept, this is pre-internet, or in my early 20s, I just kept walking into the same stores again and again. They had the same items that they had the last time there, and I just got no further in buying the gifts that I needed to purchase. And so finally, I put my foot down with myself and decided, look, I'm going to do my best to only walk into each store once during the holidays. And so I'm going to slow down. I'm going to take my time when I walk around the store, and I'm going to be very systematic about it. That being said, one of the things that you want to make sure that you do when you are shopping is to avoid marathon shopping trips. And there is a scientific reason behind that. If you've attended any of the other webinars that I presented, you have heard my love for the book, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And in his book, The Power of Habit, he talks about how scientists have discovered that your willpower, right, the thing that helps you to stay on track, to stay true to the decisions that you've made, your willpower fatigues throughout the day, right? You wake up and you've got plenty of willpower, but as you implement that willpower throughout the day, it starts to get tired, and you make less positive decisions about whatever it is that you're trying to have willpower about as the day goes on. Well, that happens when you go on those marathon Saturday shopping trips for the holidays, right? By the third hour, especially before you have lunch, you are making very, very different spending decisions than you did in that first hour. And so what I strongly, strongly recommend is go more often in less time, in shorter time frames, right? So if you do want to go on a Saturday, that's great, but just go out for about 2 hours. Try very, very hard not to go for longer than that. If you are going after work, just hit one store. Don't plan on hitting 2 or 3 stores, because that's even worse, because you've had that huge work day, right? And then on top of that, you're going to fight the traffic. It's dark outside, and you're just going to make different decisions, okay? So another thing to keep in mind as you are going about your shopping is there are a couple of traps. And there are a couple of traps that actually get caused by savvy shopping. The first one is in starting your shopping now, very likely that you will get done way before with your holiday gift purchasing before everybody else is done, like somewhere around Thanksgiving, or maybe even just a week or so after Thanksgiving. But there's still things to check out at the malls, and so it's so very easy. And this happens especially when you have 2 or 3 kids, that you'll be done, but you decide to go out and you find the perfect gift for your daughter. But you already have 4 gifts for your daughter, but you decide to buy it anyway. So now you've got the perfect gift for her, but you're thinking, oh, I should get something for my other 2 as well, because they only have 4 gifts. And so you go and you find something for them. And this continues, and you go back and forth on this until all of a sudden everybody has 10 gifts. You've completely overspent. And it's simply because you didn't stop. So my recommendation for this is that once you are done with your gift giving, don't go back into the stores. Instead, use any time that you would have spent shopping, and that includes on Amazon Prime. Spend any of that time figuring out other fun things that you can do, especially as a family, that are holiday related, okay? The other trap involves saving money. By implementing, really minding those sales ads, starting to shop now, so you've got plenty of time to buy what you want on sale, it's very likely that you're going to find a good majority of the gifts that you want to buy at better prices than maybe you thought you might. And that becomes this trap. And I'll give you the example, this very, very embarrassing example that I experienced. This was back in December of 2010. I remember it very specifically because it was about 6 weeks before my book, Living the Savvy Life, was going to come out. And I am in a Barnes & Noble, beautiful two-story Barnes & Noble in San Mateo, California, and I find a coffee table book on Harley Davidson that is just gorgeous. And it is a perfect gift for my brother, who's a Harley Davidson fanatic. And I'm so excited about it. It's just beautiful. And it's only $15. It was on sale from $60. It's only $15. So I grab it and I go to check out, and I'm standing in this, long line waiting, and I'm looking at the book, and the price tag caught my eye. And, bargain book, $15. You've all seen that, seen those price tags. And I think, wow, it's only $15. I was planning on spending $40 on him. I should get him something else. And then I burst out laughing, kind of embarrassed myself, because I remember startling the people in front of me. I started thinking, I am a published author on a book about smart spending, and here I am about ready to fall into the biggest trap that there is. First of all, my brother at the time had no idea that book cost only $15. It was the intention. This is a perfect gift for him, right? And so that's it. It's not about how much money I'm spending on him. It really is about finding something that he would enjoy so very much. Now, after all this time, of course, my brother knows this story, and I've confessed to him, and he's actually heard me give this presentation before. But if this feels familiar, again, just remind yourself it's not about the dollar amount that you're spending on them. It's about finding the gift that they're really, really going to enjoy, okay? And then as you go along, throughout this time, keep your list handy, whether you have it in your pocket, your purse, on your phone. You never know when you might be across town for a work meeting and you have some spare time to pop into a store that otherwise you would have, had to dedicate an hour to get there and around and back. And you might be able to knock some gifts off your list simply by having your list available. And the other thing, and I think this is very key as well, is that as you're going into a store, even if you're going in with one particular person in mind, take a look at your list, review it, and open up your mind, because the perfect gift for somebody else on your list might be in that store. I have found treasures in hardware stores for people that are not DIY inclined, but they have these other unique little items that are perfect, that if I had just walked in there for a gift for my husband, I would have missed out on multiple gifts for aunts, uncles, etc. Okay? All right. So that's shopping. Now, staying on the gift-giving subject, one of the things that I would like to do is talk to you a little bit about some out-of-the-box gift ideas. I want to present these to you not from the standpoint of being cheap or that these are necessarily low-cost gifts, although a lot of them are. I am presenting this to you because I have found in my experience that over the years, some of the cleverest gifts that I've received, given, or seen exchanged include the items on this list. And I'll start with the very first one, which is photos. Whether it is a framed photo of you and a friend on vacation, you and your sibling when you were little kids, whatever that might be, that is probably a memory that they don't have that you can actually give them a copy of that photo. Few years ago, I gave my dad a frame. It's a 3-photo frame, and it is one of his biggest treasures. It's right by his desk in his living room, and it is a picture. And I should back up a little bit and say that my dad is very, very cool and that he was a cowboy. And so the first top picture is a picture of me when I was about 8 years old, and I'm sitting behind him on his horse, Snidely Whiplash. And then the second picture is a picture of me and my dad probably about 8 or 9 years ago at a cattle drive. And we're sitting there waiting for the cattle to come over to where we were, to be driven over to where we were. And we're just sitting there casually talking, and somebody just captured this perfect moment, this perfect memory that the two of us share. And then the third picture in this frame is a picture of my son Dante on my dad's horse, Turlock, when Dante was probably about 4 or 5 years old. And it's a lineage of how much horses mean to our family. And again, this is one of my dad's most precious memories. In fact, I need to actually make copies of that for my own hallway. But you get the idea, okay? I've found over the years that for some people, baking is witchcraft and magic. And if you can make their favorite dessert for them, that is just the greatest gift you can give them, because again, it might go back to memory of childhood, okay? something precious that otherwise they would not have the availability to have. I already talked about my experience with Barnes and Noble and that Harley book. I worked at bookstores for years. My husband's worked at bookstores for years, and we've learned that even for people that are not big readers, there are very often fantastic resources, fantastic books out there for just about everybody on your list. I love giving holiday ornaments to people that are just starting out, either their first apartment or their first home. They're going to think about you every single year when they pull out those ornaments and go to decorate their trees. I'm also a big fan of giving movies away, giving movies as gifts. I grew up as a kid. The Sound of Music was the soundtrack of my childhood. I woke up to that on my mom's 8-track every morning for years and years. And when that DVD came out, I was so excited to give that to my mom with all the extras of like her favorite movie. And I'm sure you have friends or family members that, again, if you can find a copy of their favorite movie, we'll demonstrate to them how much you know them, how well you know them. I love giving plants. I'm a gardener and a baker, and I've just found that folks that have bought their first house, giving them a potted citrus tree or a potted pear tree if it's the holidays is a very appreciated gift. Friends that love to cook, I will give them pots of herbs, like 3 different herbs in one pot that they can keep in their kitchen and cut as needed. I have a lot of friends that are very, very well off, a lot of family members that have done very well that don't want anything. And so when for the holidays or their birthdays, we'll make donations to their favorite charities. One of my favorite gifts that I've given, I actually gave to my husband's family one year, the Tassetti family. I secretly spent a couple of months gathering everybody's favorite family recipes, from my father-in-law's meatballs to my husband's aunt's one of her favorite cakes that is very famous. Gathered all these recipes and bound them, and everybody in the family now has copies of these treasures. Again, memories, right? Food is memory. The last item on here I am more fond of than anything because it was really, I can't say life-changing, but impactful for me. It was a lesson that I learned. When I first moved to the San Francisco Bay Area, I was blessed that I had half a dozen very, very good friends, and still have. But it was a very unique situation for me because they all spent very lavishly on gifts for the holidays and for birthdays. And I tried to keep up for the first couple of years, and finally I hit a point because I realized that I was not the only one getting very stressed by this. And again, it wasn't just about the money, but it was also everybody was very meticulous in trying to find the perfect gift. And when you're doing that for a lot of people, it gets very stressful. And this is way before my savvy life. And I sat down with everybody and I said, look, I just want to throw out an idea. Instead of us trying to, doing these gift exchanges for the holidays and our birthdays, what do you guys think about the idea of instead going up to South Lake Tahoe in beautiful, beautiful South Lake Tahoe? We'll do it over President's Day weekend. We'll rent a cabin, and we'll just spend 3 days up there hanging out, eating. We'll get some, sleds, and we'll just have a lot of fun. So that was, I believe it was either 20 or 21 years ago. And with the exception of 2 years, we have continued to go up to South Lake Tahoe every single year. We've grown from about 6 of us to now there are close to 20 of us. We rent very big cabins. And those times up in South Lake Tahoe with my friends are some of my most precious memories. Priceless, priceless memories. So much more priceless than any doodad that I could put on, a bookshelf in my office. And so I encourage you, if this appeals to you whatsoever, and you've got a group of friends or family members that might also be interested in this, talk to them about it. See if there's something like this. It doesn't have to be as long as, as we do it. It could just be an evening going out and doing something fun together. But it is not, gift giving is not always about something that you open up. It's very, very much can be about time. All right, let's move on. Holiday cards. So I know a lot of people that really enjoy sending holiday cards, and that is what you might want to consider doing is mixing it up a little bit. So, of course you have store-bought holiday cards. But there's also, photo cards that are so appreciated, especially by family members. One thing I've learned is that grandparents sincerely love getting homemade cards from grandkids. It's not just feigned interest and enjoyment. So that's something you might want to encourage your children to do or your grandchildren to do, to other family members, and give them that opportunity to be able to start their own tradition. Um, the one thing though that I do want to say about this is that I have learned that a handwritten letter to an aunt or an uncle is equally cherished. Handwritten letters just are not exchanged anymore, making them that much more appreciated. And so if there was somebody in your family, a family member or even a friend that is just particularly cherished, you might want to consider, spending a few minutes just dashing something out, not typed in a computer, but handwriting that out and sending that out. And it's just, again, as much for you as it is for them. All right. The last thing that I want to say, though, about holiday cards, about gift giving, is that it is very easy for us to do these things out of habit, to continue to give to the same people again and again and again because it's something that we've always done. Even though sometimes we may have grown apart, a little bit apart from people, whether that's distance or maybe friends work at a different job or whatever that might be. And so I encourage you, when you're reviewing your gift list or your holiday cards list, really look it over, and it may be time to shift things a little bit. Maybe it's just a quick phone call to somebody to wish them a happy holidays, or somebody you previously gave gifts to, now you're just going to send a card to. All right? So that's, just keep that in mind. Don't do anything like that out of habit. During my first Christmas in my own apartment, a very, very long time ago, I remember that I wanted to fully decorate my home for the holidays. The only problem is that I had a lack of money, very much like a lot of people do when they're first starting out. But based on the advice of an aunt, a very beloved aunt that I actually write letters to every Christmas, she suggested that I get creative with what I had on hand. And I did just that. And so what I suggest to you is, if perhaps there's somebody in your life that is just starting out, encourage them to do the same thing. Encourage them to, go out and buy just a couple of candles, maybe a couple of spools of ribbon. They can, take a little teddy bear, tie a ribbon around the teddy bear, prop it on a shelf. It's now decor. Put mittens over a doorknob, and now it's decor. Or the holiday the holiday cards that they're receiving, put them up in a certain way, a very decorative way, and again, now it's decor. They get a Christmas tree, ask for any leftover greens, they can, play with that. Music goes a very, very long way. But something, very simple little strategies like this can help them from walking into Target and losing their minds in the holiday aisles. All right. And another piece of advice to pass on to them is that holiday decorations are best accumulated over the years. A new ornament purchased on the trip, a new item or two purchased during post-holiday sales. You don't want to be done purchasing holiday decorations. They accrue over your lifetime. They're memory bearers. All right? Want to talk about charity. For most of the people I work with, charity is a very, very important aspect of the holidays. But if funds are already tight, it can be very frustrating for them. But there are ways to give without negatively impacting your finances. And one is those red kettles that the Salvation Army displays. I did a little bit of research a while ago, and I found that in 2014, $144.7 million was raised for the homeless and to feed the hungry with those red kettles. So your change dropped into those red kettles goes a lot further than you might have thought. And if you think about the amount of times you see those, and if you drop a little change here or there, you get these just little, impulses of enjoyment from making those donations, because especially knowing what they can really do. And also, you can, if you have time, you can volunteer as a bell ringer. They're always looking for people to mind those kettles. You can purchase one or two extra toys on sale to donate for Toys for Tots. You can donate food, money, or time to Feeding America. They are the nation's largest food bank, and they're reaching over 46 million people. That is a your little effort can help so many people. It's that whole idea, right? Everybody's little effort in donations and donating time is what makes that all possible. Um, you know, I would also say that charity doesn't always have to be a tax write-off. I think sometimes we forget. My friend Joel, he and his family put up the holiday decorations for their widowed next door neighbor, and they have been doing this for years and years, and it's something they all look forward to. And I grew up with my amazing grandmother that always invited a friend or an extended family member to holiday meals that would have otherwise spent the time alone. This is just a part of our holidays. It's the way it was, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic. So again, many different ways to be able to give. I want to spend a little bit of time on talking about holiday meals because I know for so many people this is just looking at the slide is probably stressing you out. And I'm sure as we all do, we learn along the ways, but just a couple of things I want to touch base on real quick. When we are figuring out what we want those meals to look like, sitting down and making a list of those ingredients that need to be purchased, right? You go through, see what you already have, figure out what needs to be purchased. But I cannot recommend enough checking that list twice before going to the grocery store, because there is no more miserable place on earth than at the grocery store the night before a major holiday. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. All right. The other thing is to have a plan for what is going to go into the oven when, what is getting prepared when, what is going to go into the oven when. Unless you are a professional chef or this is your 50th Thanksgiving meal that you have prepared, this is really going to be helpful because most of us aren't used to preparing these meals to this extent. And so just a little checklist, a little timeline can go a long way to making sure that Thanksgiving dinner isn't served at midnight. I encourage you to keep it simple. Uh, you know, it's very easy, especially for those of us that enjoy cooking, it's very easy to lose our minds and want to do everybody's favorite side dish, everybody's favorite dessert, but keep it to just one or two proteins, no more than three side dishes, if that, no more than maybe two desserts. Be open to the power of the potluck and allow people to contribute, right? If there's one particular side dish that you just are not that excited about making and somebody else makes it great, ask them to make it. Also be open to help. If somebody does offer to help, be willing to let them help you. And if you have family members, make sure that you're not the only one that's doing all the work. They can, if they're not great at cooking, they can always clean. There's things that can be done that free up your time, not just to slave in the kitchen, but to be able to actually take a breath, relax, and enjoy so that by the time company arrives, you are not just worn out and want to crawl into bed. And then the last thing that I'll leave you with regarding holiday meals is, I talked about using the sales strategy for buying gifts and, each week checking those sales ads. There's a huge opportunity to save money on your holiday meals and just save money on your groceries as a whole in those last 6 weeks, 7 weeks of the year, simply by paying attention to what's on sale. Most things that are baking are going to be at the best prices possible over the course of the next 6 weeks, or excuse me, over those 6-7 weeks. This is a time that I absolutely take advantage of. Again, I love to bake, and every week I add whatever's on sale. I'll add, maybe I'll buy an extra pound of flour, an extra pound, an extra bag of flour, an extra bag of sugar, whatever's on sale that I know that I'm going to use throughout the year, I'll buy more of. And then at the end of the year, my baking pantry is completely stocked up for when I know those items are going to be on sale again come Easter. Okay. All things, cocktails are going to be on sale those last couple of weeks as we get closer to New Year's. So use sales ads to be able to save money on those holiday meals, but also on your other items that you typically purchase as well. That's the strategy that stores are using to get you into the store. Take advantage of it. Absolutely take advantage of it. The other thing I like about using that sales strategy is that it gives you an opportunity to bring those groceries in a little bit at a time for those meals, right? Versus it's the day before Thanksgiving or 2 days before Thanksgiving, and you're having to bring 20 bags, very heavy bags, in. Well, you've already been, shopping for many of those ingredients throughout those couple of weeks, and so you're ahead of the game, if that makes sense. Okay, so if you're not actually in charge of the holiday meal, it's very likely that you might be traveling to a holiday meal. And so there's a couple of different strategies to make that trip as pleasant as possible. The first one comes from helping your pocketbook around that. I'm a big fan of a website called airfarewatchdog.com. So if you are traveling, if you are doing air travel for the holidays, and especially right now, it's almost too late to take advantage of any type of holiday deal, but it's worth trying. Is go on to airfarewatchdog.com, and what you're going to do is you're going to enter the destination where you want to fly to. You're going to enter the airport you're going to fly out of and your dates. And what's going to happen is until you tell it to stop, every couple of days it's going to send you an email, and it's going to give you the lowest possible price on that airfare. So after a week or two, a little bit longer than that, you start to get a feel for what is a high price and what is a low price. And when you pull the trigger, you feel so much better about that decision and can potentially save yourself money, especially if you have multiple family members going. I was just talking with a client yesterday. There's 6 family members. And so airfare, if they can save $100 on airfare, that's $600 if you take that across all of them. Other thing that I suggest is get your car into the shop now for any kind of maintenance. If you're getting close to that maintenance needing to be done, this gives you a chance to get that very critical task taken care of before the holidays hit full force. But it will also give you a chance to make sure that your that nothing is going to potentially break down on you, to the best of your ability, that nothing's going to break down on you as you're making those trips, right? So you can ask your mechanic when your oil is getting changed, look, do I need my brakes changed? Do you see anything that is critical that needs to be done before the end of the year I'm going on said trip? I think I had mentioned my father-in-law lives 2 hours one way, my mom, 2.5 hours the other way. And it would break my heart if my son wasn't able to spend the holidays with my family because I simply wasn't paying attention to my car maintenance needs. And so this is something I actually take very, very seriously. One of the other things that you might want to consider doing, especially if you're going by car, and given, here in the San Francisco Bay Area, trying to get out of here, especially around a holiday, it can be maddening. I have learned, instead of saying, I'm going to be there at 9 o'clock, on any given day, I'll say I'm going to be at your house between 9 and 9:30. During the holidays, I actually give an hour estimated time frame so that I'm not stressed, my family's not stressed, not knowing, are they there yet? Should we call? This helps to just allow us to relax and enjoy that drive. And speaking of enjoying that drive or flight or whatever it might be, pack snacks. You want to be able to have nice, healthy snacks when you want them versus spending a ton of money at convenience stores and not even knowing when you're going to hit that next convenience store. And then you also want, to the best of your ability, to pack entertainment. Even if you're driving, audio books, some kind of games with the family that you can do while you're still paying attention to the road. But you have to make the drive. Do your best to make that drive as enjoyable as possible so that when you hit your destination, you're not cranky and the family's not cranky, and you can actually enjoy your family, your overall family. Speaking of enjoyment, so often we focus on what it takes to make the holidays happen that we neglect to think about how to enjoy the holidays ourselves. So with that in mind, you might want to consider, if you love holiday TV, go ahead and record some of your favorite shows so that you give yourself an opportunity during that time frame to actually watch them, one of those nights off that you blocked out. Consider bundling up and going out and checking out the outdoor decor of your neighbors, or if you want to drive around. Most cities have that neighborhood that everybody goes bonkers over. My hometown of Fresno, California, we actually have it's called Christmas Tree Lane, and it is 2 miles of neighbors going over the top with their holiday decor. It's very famous. It's been going on since the 40s. So again, inexpensive, fun, enjoyable memory making time with the family. If you are so inclined, you can go caroling. It's not done as much anymore, which makes it that much more special. Whether it's just you or you've got, your kids or grandkids, holiday stories, go ice skating. Make yourself and your family real hot cocoa. I'm not talking about something powdered out of an envelope. I'm talking about real milk, whole, fatty, wonderful, delicious milk, real cocoa, sugar, and whether it's whipping cream or it is marshmallows, your choice. Indulge and enjoy. And then the last one on here is something, it's fairly new in the last 5, maybe 10 years, and it's this idea of creating holiday magic in your home. You may be familiar with something called an elf on a shelf, and it's a little elf toy, if you will. And what happens is parents are supposed to move the elf every night to a different spot, and sometimes the elf gets in little mischief along the way. And the elf's job is to tell Santa whether or not the children in that house are being good, so they know, whether or not they should be on the naughty list or the good list. And I love going on Facebook and seeing what people are doing with their elves, throughout the year, or excuse me, throughout that time. We don't have an elf. We do something a little different for our son Dante in that his toys come to life. So he has about 10 different toys. This has been going on for about 6 years now. And my husband and I take turns every night starting the night of Thanksgiving, and we get them in different scenarios. They might be riding Dante's skateboard down the hall when Dante wakes up. They might, have, at one point, my husband got a colander and he set up this cat trap and he put cat food underneath it that these toys had set up. But the thing that is so fun, and I'm smiling as I say this, the thing that is so fun about it is that, Dante's 11 now. He's going to be 12. I'm pretty sure he has an idea that we're the ones doing it, but he loves it, and he wakes up and he goes because he knows that he's expecting it, right? And it's something that my husband and I so thoroughly enjoy because we take turns. Each of us surprises the other with what the toys are going to do that night. So it creates that's holiday magic. That's special. That's memory making, and it's something you might want to consider doing. All right, and I would be remiss if we didn't talk about after holiday sales strategies, right? We know that once the holidays are over, things like gift wrap, decorations, a lot of clothes that you may have been eyeballing, candy, they're all going to be on sale. The one thing I want to mention, though, because this is a given, right? We know that this is going to happen. There's a phenomena that we've noticed in the last 3 or 4 years in that many, many retail stores are not waiting until after the holidays to give these very, very deep discounts. And so once you're done with all of your holiday shopping and you have, time and money allows, you might want to consider, elbowing your way into those stores and seeing how deep these sales are and if it's worth it, because we found that come the next day, unless you are very, very early in the morning shopping on the 26th, a lot of those bargains are gone. This is a situation that has changed so much just in the last couple of years. So you might not want to wait until after the holidays to take advantage of those deep sales. All right. One final note as I gear up to see if there are any questions is that we may not think that we have a choice, but we do. We have a choice as to how we're going to get through those through the holidays, right? We can go into the season without a paddle, without a plan, and crash our way along those last 6 weeks, or we can take just a few minutes this week to create a plan to make this the most wonderful holiday ever. And so your homework, as a reminder, is to sit down and decide what you want the holidays to look like. If you don't already have one, set up your holiday savings account. Start shopping now and ignore the media and stick to your plan. All right. And with that, before I go to see if there are any questions, I just want to let you know that the next webinar in the Savvy Living webinar series is going to be on November 6th, and that is on the Savvy Kitchen. So it focuses on saving time, money, and energy on all things food, from your own kitchen, the grocery store, and to dining out more purposefully. So you don't want to miss that. That one, have plenty of paper or your fingers ready to type, because that is definitely content dense. All right, and with that, I will see if we have any questions, which we don't just yet. I will hang out for another minute or so. In the meantime, if you have to leave us, I want to thank you for joining us today for this topic that is near and dear to my heart, and I hope it did help you to save time, money, and your sanity during the holidays. Thank you.